All right, now we're all in the room. Let's pray, you have a prayer in front of you. Prayer for refugees. This isn't the same prayer we played last week. What I'm wondering is, Lyda, can you and Sharon figure out and pray it out loud somehow for us?
Sure,
Is it both sides?
Nope.
just one side.
One side,
I'll
got
do
it.
about half of it when I stop, you pick up.
I'm on it.
A moment for grace, a prayer for refugees. God of our wandering ancestors, long have we known that your heart is with the refugee, that you were born into time in a family of refugees, fleeing violence in their homeland, who then gathered up their hungry child and fled into alien country. Their cry resounds through the ages. Will you let me in?
Give us hearts that break open when our brothers and sisters turn to us with that same cry. Then surely all these things will follow. Ears will no longer turn deaf to their voices. Eyes will see a moment for grace instead of a threat. Tongues will not be silenced, but will instead advocate. And hands will reach out, working for peace in their homeland, working for justice in the lands where they seek safe haven. Lord, protect all refugees in their travels. May they find a friend in me, and so make me worthy of the refuge I have found in you.
Amen. Well, I think we're privileged this morning to have a guest with us who has direct experience with refugees, as opposed to me just talking to it and showing slides that someone else produced. So thank you, Lizzie, for being with us today. And then can I ask you to tell your story about how you came to the work, what your experience has been, what surprises you? And I'm sure folks here are gonna have some questions, so if you don't, you can stop anytime.
Yeah,
It's not an obligation, for you to continue, but we're really glad that you're here.
okay, yes, well, my name is Liz Lowry, and I live near Charlotte, Matthews area. And our church adopted one family, it was Muhammadullah and Bibi, and they just have, their last name is Afghan. They didn't have a last name, so they came in and it's Afghan. And it was right when the war, the Americans were pulling out in 2021. And Muhammadullah was just doing security for at the airport. And someone, officer said, get on the plane with your wife who was pregnant and their little girl who was 3. And they flew into like Arizona or, a state like that, and not Charlotte directly, but then she had her baby in Arizona, and so that baby is an American. And then they got to Charlotte. There was a man in our church that had worked with Afghans and been in Afghanistan. And he gave them, he had a house that they could be in, and they're still in that house. And we gave them rental, we paid for their rent, and we gradually had, when he found a job, we helped him get a job. The church, that's the one thing I will say, doing this, there's like 25 people at least that surround them, and
a very small church.
help, that help them. And so and it's not like a commitment for a year or so. It's at least 5 years. My husband's teaching them English 3 days out of the week, and really helping them with their finances and trying to get them assimilated.
And all their driver's licenses.
Yes, yes.
With green cards.
Right, we did all that process. He drove them up to, it was Alexandria, where they had to do the intake interview. And the 4-year-old by then was like, why isn't Brit with us? Because they have to go into the interview, just them. And they did get their asylum. They do have their green card, so that's good, especially in this day and age. But anyway, so it's just, they love to have you over and give you food, and they even provide you with chairs, but Britt is very, my husband is very, over there all the time. He sits on the floor and eats like they do, and, you know,
Tell them their names.
okay, so the first Afghan refugee couple is Muhammadullah, Afghan, Bibi, Shokaria, I've forgotten the middle girl, and then the last girl is Sarah, but they pronounce it Sarah. But all of us English speakers say Sarah. Oh, we know that name.
Thank you.
Yes, but, then they had, a couple of friends, and they say, you help our friend? And my husband did say to me, Liz, do you know what you're going to say yes to? And I said, yes, I can do it, I can do it. And so I said yes to help, and that's, Samuela Gorzang, Shakila Gorzang, Rihanna, and, Abdullah, and they just had a baby in January, in March, and that is Wasila. So they name all of their children with the ALLAH, Allah, at the end. And so, yes, I was taking her to, her doctor's appointments, Shakila, the culture is very different. You live in community, Muhammadullah, the first, man that we helped, his brother is still over in Afghanistan, and he also helped, the Americans fight and everything. But he's up in the mountains, away because he knows he would be killed by the Taliban if he went back to his house, and so he's there, we're trying to get the brother, and then there was another brother that was killed and his wife. So it's like, he's supposed to take care of all of them, and he's tries. And so, yeah, it's really,
Is there a community in
yes.
Raleigh? I mean,
In Charlotte,
sorry.
yes, and they do have that Afghan community, and when they first were here, they would every Sunday be going there, and that is good for them to have that too. So,
And about the children.
yes, so Muhammadullah and Bibi's child, Shokaria, she started in a really good preschool when she was 3. The Jewish Community Center, actually, there in Charlotte, and then she went to the public school that she was zoned for, but it's like 3 out of 10. It's not a highly rated school, and so the child isn't learning to read, and so the teachers there say, have the parents read to you, and they can't, and so they're the couple I was helping, the Gorzang, they put their child into the Muslim school, and their child is flourishing, reading, and it's, anyway, so now, Muhammadullah and Bibi are trying to get their, daughter over into the other school, just because they see how well, their friend's child is doing, so
When
it's,
the 3-year-old was in the nursery school,
yeah,
was she learning English
then,
there?
yes.
And so the children are picking up English pretty.
Yes, they are picking it up. And it's interesting because Shokaria got preschool at 3, and Rihanna didn't get to school till she was 5. And she, at first you thought Shokaria was doing, she could speak English and everything else, but then Rihanna is just now way ahead of Shokaria. So it's, yeah, it's a long, long commitment if ever you find this opportunity to do.
Talk about, do you know, so for example, the materials that we're learning from are from Episcopal Migration Ministry.
Yeah.
They unfortunately get a majority of their money from the United States government because they're an agency approved by the government to distribute the funds. So
Yeah.
they laid off 25 people on Friday.
Wow.
And so their work is gonna be very, very curtailed,
Right,
right?
yeah.
So where did you guys get assistance?
It's really our church family. The Catholic, service is very, good with their material of, walking you through, assistance and stuff, but, it's like, the first couple, Muhammadullah and Bibi, we learned a lot, and then we took on, the second couple and, found, going through the green card process, easier ways and cheaper ways. We hired a lawyer for, Muhammadullah and Bibi and then found that there was free services, so, that's how we've been.
Where are those?
In Charlotte, see, I'm not part of that.
What kind of agency was it?
Yeah, okay, in Charlotte, it's just, it's like a nonprofit, they just offer their services and you have to find it.
Oh, okay, I was just wondering, because to me, that seemed like the number one thing. you think of
Yeah, right,
To get through all this stuff.
Yes.
Get taken back.
yeah, and, getting the driver's license was an interesting process. Britt, my husband, tried 3 times, to get Muhammadullah a driver's license and, anyway, Muhammadullah went down to visit relatives in Texas and came back with a Texas driver's license. And Britt said, we're a nation of laws. This is
I used to have one of those, pretty important.
Yeah, and so anyway, but they were able to get that license, into a North Carolina license, just to like a renewal.
Yeah.
And so, that has worked and, it's just,
Do
everything.
they have a car?
Yes, we, gave them a car. And that's the other thing in America, they see all that they might not have. And so when they had the 3rd child, he wanted another car that was bigger. And so Britt is very conscious of letting them make their decisions. He tells them, so they went to the dealership and, he wanted this car. And Britt said, this is not a good idea. Because the car that that the church gave you, it runs, it's fine, it's paid for, it's a Subaru.
What more can you want?
And then, but he says, it's your decision, and Muhammadullah said, I want, and so, I mean, my husband.
Those are words he knows.
Yeah, I want, and so he got, anyway, a Toyota, it was a smaller car, and it wasn't bigger. And because of no credit history, it was like at 20%.
Oh, my.
But,
Oh, my goodness.
but Britt worked with him and he has paid off that car.
Oh,
And he got a, so not Social Security, a tax refund check. And Britt recommended to him, pay off this, it gives you credit rating up and you don't have this bill. And so it's just that process. It's like you feel like you go a step forward and then not going forward, but it's good. I mean.
Well, he probably wanted to feel proud that he's accomplishing it, so he's not dependent on everything,
Right.
everything's been given to him.
Yes.
So tell me about finding his job and stuff like that.
Yes, so again, other people in the church, it's just like, something that you can do without the language. And first, it was very far north of Charlotte, and we had drivers that took him up every day and all. Then, we found a closer job, and it's like with Goodyear, and what they make are these rubber mitts that strip the feathers off the bird, the chicken, without bruising the bird. And so he and his friend, Samuela, they work the 4 PM to 2 AM shift. And, and so, they, it's, hourly, and that's where we have, our church has gotten, some money that we're thinking of using it to, have them go to school, some trade school that, to get him, you know, even like a mechanic or
Yeah.
something.
Machines.
He, what he did for the Americans in Afghanistan was, he was called a breacher. He would blow, if they couldn't go through the front door, he said, I can blow up that wall and you can go in the back way or something, you know. But his hearing is gone,
Yeah.
but we got him free hearing aids, and that was like a 6-month process of doing that. And his back is, anyway, yeah,
He's young, but he's got a bad back.
right, yes.
Do the Afghans, I mean, 'cause of the situation in Afghanistan, do they get a better reception from us here? I mean, the government in the US rather than the ones that come over the southern border? I would hope so.
I would hope so. You know,
It sounds like y'all are getting green cards and stuff like that.
right, yeah, they seem.
They're not trying to run him back to
Right,
Afghanistan.
yeah. No, and I mean, my husband, when they were going through the green card process, he just thought it would be automatic because there's no woman that would be, to go back there would be not good.
Yeah.
But, anyway, they did the asylum under BB, and he's a, deviant, derivative, which, you know, is,
So I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
From the Afghans, so
Yeah.
that's good.
The families in Greenville who churches have taken on,
Yeah.
and
Oh, really?
yeah, refugee.
they are in the chicken business as well.
Okay,
Because the plants never have enough people.
yeah,
Mm,
yeah,
Kill chickens.
yeah,
It's an
I
awful
know.
job.
I know.
It pays.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
You ever
mean,
go do
Well,
something?
he's feeding a family of what,
3
children?
yes,
And
and,
wife, quail.
and she's
And paid
pregnant.
off a car.
Yeah.
And she's pregnant again.
Yeah, she's pregnant again.
Stop this.
I know, and she was, anyway, yeah, it may be something where she feels, I don't know the culture, whether she feels like she has to have a boy for him, I don't know. I don't know.
3 girls.
Yeah,
How
anyway,
much English does she have?
Brit.
She can say his name.
Yeah, but she'll say Brit. Brit, phone, I need new phone, you teach me drive. Learn English. Learn English.
Her husband is quite a linguist, and I mean, he doesn't speak the language,
No,
but he
we
does
use
pretty
Google.
well with it.
Yeah, he has them teach him some words. He always, when they call, he says, and he says it in their language, but it's Lord be with you, basically is what they're saying in.
That's a lot.
So,
Is Britt organizing, is he in charge of,
No.
say, one group, or how
No,
does
no,
that
they-
structure work at your church?
yeah, there is, the outreach committee, and then there's the head of that outreach committee. Britt is really one where he's saying he doesn't like just going through the paperwork, and we are, I mean, we always talk, but he says, I'm like to just do this, you know, give this.
Hands-on.
Yeah, yeah,
Not
just-
administrative.
Yeah, but just do it. And then, if he, like, there was Samuela's car broke down. We do have a good mechanic that's really cheap, and so we got him over there. But it was gonna be like, the dealership, it was 1,200, with our mechanic, it was 500. And then Muhammad Allah had a bad tooth, and it was gonna be so much money. And you know, again, some of those we just pay and then get reimbursement or don't, you know, it's just.
It sounds like you've really networked with, other agencies
Yeah.
and of course your own parishioners.
Yes, yes, so, yeah, it's really good. There's a number of, people, some that, help with Muhammad Allah Bibi, taking her to the doctor because, a lot of times, the man can't take them, you know, and that's what I found with Shakila. I took her to her, OB appointments, and at one point I'm like, no, Samuel will take you. She said, no, he won't.
You won't have anything to do with the
Yeah,
feminine
yeah,
issues.
yeah. So-
Is BB her real name, or is that Americanized from
I do not know.
BB Allah?
Yeah, I know. It's like when they came over, you know, yes, I don't know that.
But thank God for BB.
Yes, right, just BB, BIBI.
So you said they offered to get on this plane, so I guess this plane was a
Okay.
refugee
Yeah.
plane that was taking people out. They didn't have to have passports or anything, they could just try to
Yes,
get people out
and
at the time.
they get a refugee number, and so they get a card, with their picture ID where they're able to work. So they're
Right off the bat,
right off the bat.
good.
And so, the Gorzangs, when I met them, they were working like at a card shop, like printer shop, I think. And she was working and then he was working, so they did the shifts.
Mm.
And then it closed, or, you know, they both were laid off, and that's when, Samula came on with, Muhammad Allah at the factory that makes the gloves. So,
It seems like every man in the country would be named
Mohammed.
Muhammad Allah.
Muhammad Allah.
I know. And it is funny, everyone in our parish says Muhammad Allah very differently. It's just- There's something, Muhammad, I don't know.
Do they come to church?
There you go.
No, they
Well, I
didn't.
know they're Muslim, but I just.
They did come to give their story through an interpreter to the men's group, and then, the person in charge of the Afghan refugee, he wanted to adopt another family, and I went, are you sure? I really was like, but this wasn't a couple, this was a sister that brought her sister over from Afghanistan. So the sister came in 2012 and speaks English and is a Christian, and she is bringing her sister and her children to our church. And that is good, it's very nice to have them. But the 12-year-old girl, I believe it was, or the 9-year-old, the girl was burned very, very badly by her father.
No.
So she's been up to the children's hospital for several surgeries, for, you know, different things. And, that she doesn't have a husband, but her sister is married and kind of sponsors her, I think.
There are different ways that can come in with
Yes,
different kinds of
yes.
help and agencies. There.
Mhm. And that woman speaks Dari, or, I mean, there are classes, Shakila and Muhammadullah, and Samuel, they were like in the southern part of Afghanistan, which is very agricultural, and just, where this sister lived up, in Kabul, in the capital, and was a teacher, and, you know. So, it is interesting.
Everyone, and just like we are diverse.
Yes.
There's diversity there too.
Mhm.
Yeah. What would you say has been if you could articulate that, you know, kind of, what do you notice about how you see the world differently?
Through
Since having.
Yes.
knowing them.
Realizing how hard it is for them. I just can't really comprehend as much as I want to help, and it's that I do see it differently. And not it just if you're Afghan, but, just, you know, yeah,
So drastic.
what more can I do, is always my question.
And
Do you
it
think
can't
they-
be, go ahead.
Do you think they appreciate what you're doing?
Oh, yes,
Okay.
they're so appreciative.
All right.
Just beyond. So a couple of weeks ago, Shakila, brought over tons of food. I could not get out of the house. And I mean, it was so much. I put half of it in the refrigerator, and, this evening, we're having a missionary potluck, where we have different, cultures and food
Yeah,
and stuff.
Is there food, do you find that you can enjoy
Oh,
most of them?
Yeah, I love curry, and so, and rice, and so I put half of it in the freezer, I said, pull that out of the freezer, take that's
Yeah.
candy food. And so, yeah, they're very appreciative.
Lizzie, finish talking about what's happening tonight, and I mean, our, other refugees coming, other
oh, yeah,
different ones are helping and.
So, yeah, this is
Who's
a
involved?
This is a missionary outreach potluck supper that we bring, that we invite the church to come and listen and hear. There is a speaker, and I don't know where they are from, but we have a large African community in our parish too. And so, we do get, this is our second annual, doing this. And so, last year it was just really fun to see the different dresses and cultures and, that people brought, to the supper. And,
So they come in their native.
garb.
Yeah, Cool. yes.
Yeah. So,
What questions do you have? Anybody else?
I mean, it seems like y'all learned so much, and it's like, you found it so not difficult, but you said it was challenging, like the green card, you could have gone and got this free.
yeah,
It's like, is anybody doing anything to make it
easier, like
easier for
say,
people
yeah.
to know this information?
I know, that is my husband's question, because it's like you just find it in the haystack.
Yeah.
And it's like, can't we organize it better? And, it's
And
just.
then you have it right out there in front of anybody else wanna do this?
Yeah.
Here's ABC.
This is the steps, I know, that is what would be very helpful, but it's not there, it's like searching a haystack.
And so you
Lizzie,
know,
this is Lida, and she's helping us to do that with the pastoral care team.
Oh, good.
nice to meet you.
Let me just give her a shout out.
Yeah.
So the Goodyear plant that makes the gloves, they knew these were Afghan refugees, so
Yes,
so there must be other companies that are, give me your Afghan refugees.
yes, yes,
So that they have, I mean, I can't speak for all the other refugees.
Yeah.
That one seems to be special, that the company's already
yes,
getting
and,
involved, that's
yeah,
important.
and Britt knows the manager there and talks with him
That's
and,
where the jobs are.
right, yeah, yeah.
Chicken processing.
And
Well,
so-
whatever, that's other ones,
Yeah.
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 Yeah,
So I'm glad to see that it's already,
Okay.
opening for these people and some of the companies.
In the
So
world,
I hope somebody's ramrodding that for the state or the government or
yeah,
charities or whatever, to get more and more companies, because that's how you absorb all these. people.
right,
They need people working, it doesn't have to be chicken processing.
yeah, we got,
Could be computers for, some of these Afghan people are well educated and
yes,
doctors and stuff.
yeah, I say the different, yeah, hard workers and,
Yeah.
and the women, they want to like sewing, Bibi can sew anything, she
Yeah.
just, but she sits on the floor and you know how we sit up, she sits on the floor and her knee is on the pedal.
yeah.
It's just like, watch her, she's just like, whoa. And,
I've tried that before, cause I just gotta fix this one little thing, I don't wanna pull up the whole table and everything. You know? It's like not easy.
Ginger, did you have a question? You were leaning forward like you did.
Well, but, number one, this is Lowell Dent, who is also a resident at Chestnut Hill.
Hey, Lowell.
And happens to
Welcome.
live in this pagan.
Welcome.
So,
Thank you. Us men gotta stick together while he's.
No, thank you for that also.
and.
We
I
usually have
just
one
thought-
more man who's always here, but he went home.
Yeah.
I was thinking that this class was adult ed class and neighbors was the name that I remember. And I'm thinking, now this is a good way to be a neighbor.
Yes, yes.
That's great.
So
Well,
true.
welcome, welcome.
Right. So I have a handout for you all that talks about what's the process for asylum,
Yeah.
which is not at all accurate anymore. But
Oh, my.
it's at least 6 years old, and so it doesn't really, no one knows now what the process for asylum is.
Well, but
lot-
thanks for sharing with us.
Oh, you're
Well,
welcome.
that's-
I'm glad.
Yeah. what
I
is
knew
the-
nothing.
What is that?
Yeah, this was a God thing, right?
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, yeah. Last week we were talking about all this and I said, I have a friend. She knows firsthand what we're talking about.
Yes,
So you're going back to
And
Charlotte?
she's coming
for the-
this
For the
weekend.
deal tonight.
yeah,
You're going back to Charlotte for the deal tonight?
yes, I know, I am.
And now,
Well, Allison, what is the new here going on with asylum? That you're
Well,
referencing?
as I said, many agencies who receive money from the government to do the processes that Liz is describing, how we get green cards, how we get asylum, how we get driver's licenses, how we find jobs, how we get kids in school, how we find housing, how we subsidize that housing for
Right.
some amount of time, how do we get the needs done so that people can live and get on their feet? And the problem being that those monies were dispersed through mostly nonprofits. That's how the monies get dispersed. The government doesn't necessarily, yes, they are the ones who process the asylum requests. And they man in people to courts, right, and hear the cases, but they are not the boots on the ground, helping people, actually get a job, finding housing, getting their kids in school, getting appropriate medical care, and getting them into the systems that we do have or have had lots of government agencies that work with people, whether that's Section 8 housing, right? Or whether that's Medicare or Medicaid to help provide for medical costs. So there are ways that, and as far as I know, none of those agencies as of yet are dismantled. How the money is gonna get distributed is very unclear when we talk to people who are managing those, like I said, those NGOs, those nonprofits. So when I gave you the example, the only one I can really speak to is Episcopal Migration Ministries, and that of their staff, they let go half of their staff on Friday.
Who did that? The church?
Yes,
Why?
Got their money.
because they're not getting any more money from the government.
How do they know? They already been decided, they already got off or?
Well, as of the executive order of last Wednesday,
Oh, okay, so there's been some, okay, I didn't know.
yeah, there was an executive order issued last
There's
Wednesday.
300 of them, I can't even read. so I-
Exactly, so it's a little hard to keep up, but that's one
Okay,
that pertains to this. Or that's the way somehow it's been interpreted. Yes, all that's gonna go to the courts, because whether the president has the power to control those purse strings, he does not, but it doesn't mean he can't do it, and he has people that he's using in departments to execute these orders.
Right.
So whether it's Elon Musk.
how much is, I mean, just, you don't know, what percentage or what, give me an idea. What part comes directly from like donations and what part comes from government? Was it like 90% came to government or it's hard to
I
tell?
have no idea.
It takes a lot of money.
It's
It
a
seems
lot
like
of
we get a lot of people donate.
I expect it's, how do you get people into the systems that the
Yeah.
government operates? I think that's the key.
Oh,
Yeah.
huh.
And so, that's fine. I don't think those systems are, I don't think the programs are necessarily going away that the government operates. How we get, people hooked up to that might be. And,
Okay.
because I think you're trying to, it feels punishing to me. That may not be the right word to use. The effects on people, who don't use any of those services is just amazing to me too. It has,
Yeah,
it has a thing that rolls downhill or, I don't know. But, you know, it'll all get sorted out, I'm pretty sure. How it gets sorted out, I don't know. But I'd be interested to have you come back and talk, you know, in 6 months and we see what the
Yeah.
impact of that has been on the communities that you're most involved with. You know, the people that we know here are mostly people who are working, people who, you know, their kids enrolled in school, people, you know, they're not, I don't know.
How big is the
They've
community?
relied on their community to do the work that you guys are doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
How big is the Afghan community in China?
Yeah,
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 it's several hundred.
oh, it's okay.
Yeah, it is. They would meet like on Sunday, like I said, out near, Carowinds, that area, if you know. But, Arrowway.
Do they go to the, whatever, what's a Muslim
Mosque.
church called?
Mosque.
Mosque, do they go to mosque?
I don't know, sometimes we see them really dressed up, you know, and
Oh, okay.
I think they must, yeah.
Nothing wrong
It's
with
interesting, I can tell Muhammadullah and Bibi aren't quite as religious as Shakila and Samuel. Samuela and Shakila, I see the clock that shows in there, when to pray and everything, and the prayer rug, and
Yeah, good.
I brought her home from some tooth extractions, and, you know, I was trying to cover her up, and I was covering her with a prayer rug, and I said, oh. He was kind of out of it. Anyway.
I have to tell you a little bit about this beautiful soul. She's a caregiver
Yeah.
by nature,
Yeah.
and she helped almost all of my grandchildren come into the world. She's a doula and an RN.
Yeah.
And she's just, and you know, when I was a young clergy wife and we went to our first parish,
My mother.
her mother and the last of 6 children at home. And she just became part of our family and has been ever since. And what a precious, beautiful soul she is. I just have to say.
Maisie raised me, half raised me.
Well, my 5th child.
Mhm.
It is a blessing that they do have a community, and I mean, people will gravitate to a city
Yes,
because they have.
a community like that.
Yeah.
It's a strong community, that support is just amazing, I mean,
So they at least have some contact with that culture.
Yes.
It's not just,
Yeah, Mars.
yeah, yeah,
Red
Mars.
yeah, cause when we, where I lived in Houston, was completely different end of the spectrum. Japanese companies sent people over to work.
Okay.
And our street, when I first bought on my street, had 2 houses owned by Japanese companies. And they used the high school by us for their Saturday Japanese school and their prayer thing. And to this day, there's a truck out there that on Saturdays with all the, vegetables and things
Oh,
like
yeah.
that the Japanese want.
Mm.
And at the elementary school, when they were doing the big carnival in the spring, they cook.
Yeah.
And, you know, people buy their, food, you know, and it was a huge thing that shrunk completely, you know, the 2 houses on our street are no longer Japanese owned and stuff like that. The school is still there for them to use
Yeah.
it. And stuff, but you know, that culture that helps them,
Yeah,
Mhm.
continue their work. I mean, when my kid was 5,
yeah.
he turned 5 September 5th, he had to be 5 on September 1st to play the sports.
Yeah.
And so they said, well, the coach will let him. I said, okay, we'll sign him up and talk to the coach. And then they called us up and said, can you be the soccer coach? And we don't have a coach. And so my ex and I were soccer coaches, and we had 9 Japanese boys coming out of Japan, did not speak the language,
Oh, wow.
you know, and you're trying to,
Were they
and we had
good
3 Americans, John, Jerry, and Jim.
No, those other guys had American names, all the Japanese took American names, like Tommy and
Not at that young of an age, because they were only over here for 3 or 4 years ago, but they were in, going into school, but still, it was very interesting for us. I mean, I didn't deal with trying to help somebody come in, but it's still interesting watching them and,
Trying to integrate into.
integrate in it. Oh, the one lady next to us was a second couple that moved, our family moved in there. She had her book. We would go to lunch every other Friday with people on the street, and she wanted to, because some want to assimilate and some don't.
Oh, okay.
You know, some is,
Willing to work at it.
yeah. The wife is usually a lot less, like you said, they don't want to learn English as fast. My son-in-law's mother, she still had barely learned English, and she was asylum over here when she was about 18 or 19.
Oh, wow.
And, so she's my age, in
Yeah.
her 60s, and still very little English.
Oh, wow.
And so it's just interesting how,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's sometimes if you do have a big culture that you don't have to learn, you just stay with your group.
yeah.
But,
Lizzie, what's the name of your church?
All Saints Anglican Church.
Okay, and I have another question that followed that,
Okay.
but I don't, what is the size of it?
It's about, 350.
Okay.
I mean, I'm the head of the altar guild, so, it's like the 9 o'clock service, we have to have, 150 wafers, and the
Well,
second service, we have to have 200 wafers.
so you must have more parishioners than 350, because
Yeah, oh, okay.
350.
Okay.
That's.
They're the same 350 every week.
Yeah.
Unless they're very,
And it started out
unless they're what?
much
Very
smaller.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
60 people,
When
yeah,
there was
yeah.
when they broke away from the
Yeah.
church, it was like,
Yeah,
very
yeah.
few.
That's pretty good, 350 a week,
Mhm.
a lot of soul.
Yeah, we, our minister is retiring in June, and we
Hmm.
hired, someone from England. And our first past priest was an Englishman. I said, we're going full circle. We just like the English accent.
Good messages.
well, thank you all for being here today, and
Yeah.
it's interesting, because one of the exercises that we'll do next week is about, asset mapping. And many of you are familiar with what that means, but it's about how you see the resources in your community and then how you might use them, to do the work that needs to be done. And
That's
so it's
good.
just paying attention to someone that you would notify, maybe not because they know they know the language,
Right,
but maybe that they just have a heart.
right, yeah.
Okay, thank you all.
Really?
Thank you.
Hey,